Greetings and welcome. Thank you for joining with us on RPMMORadio. I am your host, Ashen Phoenix, and with me as always is the two ladies, Sib.
Hello.
And Jez.
Hello.
Yeah, we've got a few sniffles in the crowd today.
Yes,
so
I am very stuffy.
just understand, and we just thank you for being here all the same, because I know it's always fun when you can't use one of those basic things of life like
breathing through your nose. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's always just who doesn't love allergies or colds or flus? And then when you get to talk, that's even better. So how's everyone been doing?
Good here. Just doing the RP thing.
The RP thing. So I go.
Yeah, about the same. I've been battling passing the cold around.
Oh.
And we've been playing pass the code around at home, and it's my turn apparently finally.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
Yeah.
Little buggers finally got me.
Yeah. Little disease factories. We call them children.
They are.
Yeah.
I call them my disease vectors, and people look at me like, what? My children. Yeah.
Yes.
So what is everyone, we'll go ahead since you started out there, Sib. What have you been up to this last 2 weeks? Anything interesting going on?
Let's see. I know in ESO they got a guild house, which I'm excited because that gives, the guild a place to go and RP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're slowly starting to collect them. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's see, I got into the house decorating in ESO, and that was fun. And I'm looking forward to doing more.
Mm-hmm. You do love to decorate.
I do. I love it. And then just doing some RP and getting to know people, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always, especially when you're starting out with, even with people you got to get to know their whatever crazy characters they've come up with.
Yeah.
So how about you, Jazz? We'll try to keep your talking to a maximum. That way we can talk the sickness out of you.
Here we go. Yeah, we've been working in Elder Scrolls on developing everybody's characters, getting them RP'ly into the guild and introduced to each other. We all are kind of starting to get more comfortable games. So everybody's bought houses, and we're starting to collect recipes and make stuff so that we can populate all of this stuff with furniture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been really nice because that early time when you're just like leveling like mad and trying to gather as many recipes as possible or whatever you need to do in order to craft, which in every game is a little different, kind of keeps that, I don't know, excitement going. And then obviously, the meet and greets are always a lot of fun and very energized because you're getting to know each other. So that's always fun.
Yeah. And sadly, you guys, I finally caved in and started ESO as well. I know, I crumbled, but, it's free.
You came to the dark side.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But, I forgot how much I actually did enjoy the game itself. It was just, for me, it's just some of the annoyances and getting to role play, although that seems to have gotten a little better depending on where you go, at least in some of the instances. It looks like I've seen it actually out and about in the world in that one tavern we were in, and then
Sisters of the something.
Sisters of the Sands, and
Yeah,
then
something
whatever
like
those
that,
Dang it, can't remember.
those thiefy underground things too. I forget what they're
Yeah.
called. I've seen actual
Princess.
people role playing in those. Like one of
Yeah,
them had
I
like
have
5
too.
or 8 people separate, in 2 and 3 separate groups. So that was actually kind of cool. So, but yeah,
It's a lot different game than when we first started.
Yeah,
What was
very,
it?
very
4 years ago
when it first came out.
Yeah, we tried it, and I enjoyed it then, but you didn't seem to like it as much as I did.
No, I liked the game. I just the role play stuff got me. But I'm also still in Final Fantasy. The guild I'm in there, the garden, they're actually getting ready to come up on exams week here in about a week or two, which will be fun. We block out time and we'll test the students individually on combat stuff for about an hour, and we'll have pass and fails and stuff on that. They've done a real good job there. It's been a lot of fun, and it's still an enjoyable game. So I'm gonna try to do the thing I'm terrible at, and that's balance 2 MMOs at the same time, which I've always been just god awful at. I typically end up going for one or the other overall.
Not to mention all the side games.
Yeah, that's the other. I like video games is apparently the theme here. Still haven't finished Horizon, which is a huge open world game, and then Tuesday comes Mass Effect Andromeda, which is an even huger our role-playing game some may have heard of. But I'm looking forward to all that. But we'll just have to strike it rich and quit my job so that I can play more games, really. If we could just get on that somehow.
If it wasn't for life, I would have so much more time.
Right. Yeah. But other than that, I've had fun playing the ESO, trying to base my character off of, at least in part, off of the Raymond Reddington character from that show Blacklist, because he's a murdering weirdo psycho, but he's super smart and very charming.
And very charming.
And that's what I want to go with. Yeah. Since he's part of the Dark Brotherhood, which is a guild of assassins, I figured, why not? He's, it seems to work. See if you can create somebody that's not like, I just like to stab people just to stab people, but he has a reason for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So other than that, I think probably my favorite thing, and I'm sorry, I'm going to just throw this out there for you, hon, but we actually went and saw Beauty and the Beast today.
Oh yeah? I want to see that really bad.
It was really good, but I think my favorite part of the whole thing was looking over to my wife and seeing her as a 10-year-old girl and just light up at all the songs and bobbing her head and singing and wiping a few tears away.
I wish I had a little bell dress to wear.
But I love seeing her when she's at her best like that, and she was just so cute, enjoying. It's her favorite movie of all time, the original, and I have a feeling this is probably just right up next to it in just a different way.
They're so cute.
Yeah. It was cute. She had a real. I enjoyed the movie. It was a lot of fun, but she was just enamored the entire time, and I could just see the little some of the new songs that they had, and I'm no spoilers. It turns out he's human. Yeah.
Yeah.
They fall in love. No, I don't want to spoil the movie, but they do fall in love at the end.
Thank you.
Yeah. And apparently the all those things were people. Yeah. All the dishes were people. Yeah. I don't want to spoil it though.
Which you already did. But
don't want to spoil what is it now, a 20-year-old animated series.
Yeah.
People are like, don't spoil it. It's like, there's new songs, but that's pretty much all you could spoil. But anyway, so this isn't a Beauty and the Beast podcast, but I had to share that because I found it adorable. So we'll go ahead. I have a few news items. It's always a weird thing because I never know what really to include in this, to be honest with you, because not everything is really RP related. However, like with, say, Conan Exiles right now, possibly wiping everything you've done because of a huge exploit, apparently, that and I get this story from let's see, what is it, massivelyop.com.
Yeah,
got to give them credit because they're the ones that did it originally, that I'm reading from. But apparently what happened, there was some massive duping exploits to the point that people are demanding a full wipe of the early access game, which, it is early access, and I would assume when it goes live, it's probably going to get wiped anyway, but it's such a weird territory with these early access games. You just never know anymore.
Yeah, totally.
So, but apparently by, literally thousands, people, you can kill each other in that game and literally, have thousands of items for the crafting and all this, and it would be game. It sounds like, from what I'm reading, it would be game breaking. Like, so many people have this that there would be no economy. It'd be like, everyone gets $1 million in their bank account tomorrow. It's mass hysteria.
It's an alpha game. Wipes are normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. You don't build an economy in an alpha game. You're there to help build the game. That's your whole point. And I think a lot of people, when they bought it, felt that they were buying a finished game on some level.
Yeah, which
and
is
are
part of the problem with this
furious.
early
Yeah.
access stuff. Yeah.
You're paying money, but you're not getting a game. You need to know that going in. You're basically investing in building the game. That is what you are doing.
You're paying to beta test, or in this case, alpha test, which is even worse. As Jazz and I found out by the tune of $200 respectively for the both of us.
Yeah.
But so if you're in Age of Conan, probably keep it, or not Age of Conan, Conan Exiles. They're the same game almost.
Except one's basically all PvP, isn't it? Or it could be.
And all that stuff. And the other one's a little bit happier is the EverQuest, the original, the one, the only. Turns 18 years old this month.
That's impressive.
Right. 23 expansions, which is insane when you think, things like World of Warcraft or even, was it Final Fantasy? They're coming up on their second technical expansion, third if you count A Realm Reborn, but that's like one every 2 years, and they've had 18 years old and 23 expansions. That's insane.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But apparently they're going to give bonus XP for the rest of the month. All players who have played the game will be granted a heroic character if they log in between March 16th and 31st. So, good work for you, EverQuest. Daybreak Games still sucks.
Yes, it does. And we all hate them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so, but that's really all I could find. I've always tried looking around for roleplay news, and it's really not a whole lot out there sometimes. So even over the course of 2 weeks, especially in overall the games, there was something about Lord of the Rings getting ready to do their 20th update, but it's tentative, so who knows? It may be this week or it may be pushed back. But that's also a really good roleplay game that we haven't really talked about too much here. I think we've all dabbled in it.
Yeah,
and it is a lot of fun, and especially if you love that Tolkien world, which I like. I'm not in love with it, and I sure as heck don't know it as well as some of the Lord of the Rings people know it.
I read all the books, but that was a long time ago, so I can't say that. And I know it really well, but I did read all the books and saw all the original movies. I didn't see the remakes. So
you mean those old? You mean the old cartoon ones, or the ones by King Kong guy?
Yeah, the King Kong guy.
Okay.
Then they remade them again, didn't they?
They took The Hobbit and broke it up into 3 separate movies and added a butt ton of stuff that was completely unnecessary.
Yeah. Okay, so I haven't seen those last 3. I saw the first one.
Yeah, you saw the Lord of the Rings, Twin Towers, and Empire Strikes Back, right?
Wrong game.
What? No, it's Sauron Strikes. Is it Sauron Strikes Back? I think that's the third one.
I think that was. I didn't see that one either, so I only saw the first 2. Yeah. And then I just lost interest because they added so much and changed so much, and I was like, eh. So
and then they did that prequel that was like Return of the Rangers or something like that.
Didn't see that one either.
No, I'm just making up titles now.
Should have been Strider Strikes Back.
Strider Strikes Back. There you go.
Yeah.
Hobbits 2, Electric Boogaloo. Is it true what they say about hobbits and their feet?
I don't want to know.
Yeah, we don't want to know.
No, we don't. Yeah, their feet are hairy. So anyway, that's pretty much all we have there. So we'll go ahead and head on to our main topic, which this I want to say week, but this episode, which by the way is episode 4. We've actually done this for 2 whole months now.
Wow.
So
doesn't feel like it. That's cool.
This will be the 2nd month, and hopefully by this time too, we've gotten a little better with the audio and everything like that. I know we've had some problems.
Echoing.
I think we've got it figured out now.
Yeah.
I hope so.
But it's just one of those things where we don't do this professionally. We're doing it for fun, and unfortunately, it takes us a little while to figure out and how to do all this stuff. And we're also doing it in ways other people don't, using Discord totally differently. Since one of us is not actually local. Jazz.
Yeah.
Not yet, anyway. Who knows where I'm going to land in 5 years? But
that's where do you see yourself in 5 years? Anywhere but here.
Mm-hmm.
Also not something you want to say in a job interview.
Yeah, no, I completely lied.
Yeah. That's always a fun question.
Yeah, because I have no idea where I'm going to be in 10 years. The 10-year plan, I can tell you where I'm going to be in 10 years. Hopefully, I will have my credit cards paid off and we will live in a different house. There you go. Those are the two things I can say for sure. Beyond where it is located is still up in the air.
Yep, and that's one of those things you don't want to say to your brand new guild leader. Well, where do you see yourself in 6 months? Not in this shitty guild. That's for sure. So, which brings us to our topic, role-playing guilds. And actually, a lot of these things will go towards just guilds in general.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're a role-playing podcast in MMOs, which means it's going to be specifically geared towards that. But a lot of this stuff works for pretty much anything. We're going to go over both how to run them, because we've got a few people here that have ran RP guilds, and also what it takes to be a member in them, because we've done that too.
Yes.
We don't lead everything.
We've been on both sides, so yeah.
So, what exactly does it take to run an RP guild? Basically, a leader. Obviously, you have to have a pretty strong figurehead or figureheads. If it's more than one person, that also does work out. But you do have to have a strong leader that's both logs in and is active. I mean, if you log in and you go AFK the entire time, that doesn't really do jack squat. I mean, you may as well just not log not log in.
And there's pros and cons to each. The single guild leader or the group. There really is.
Group guild leaders might work if you're all already friends.
Yes.
And you've known each other for a long time. Like, I think the three of us could run a guild and have no problem. We've known each other for a long time. But somebody that you just met last year and you start a guild with them, you've got a 90% chance of wanting to kill each other within 6 months.
Or especially if you're starting in a brand new MMO, which happens, and you meet each other online, you're like, hey, we have a similar idea for a guild. Let's join forces. It's kind of like when the Simpsons and Family Guy crossover. It's only going to last for an episode or two, and then you guys are going to go your separate ways again. It doesn't mesh very well forever. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying it probably won't.
Yeah, I've heard of it working, but it really just, you've got to have so much in common and be so alike in many ways or opposites in order to balance each other out, or it just explodes.
Yeah.
Usually I tell people when they ask me, I was like, one person needs to be in charge. Pick that person.
Yeah, and we've been in that role, because usually Jazz she's ran the guild, and I've been there from pretty close to the start for a lot of it.
Yeah.
But and we've definitely had our disagreements and our head banging sessions at times, especially when it comes to when things get a little heated or a player is doing this or that. But you have to be able to do that. If we had...
You've got to be able to have a disagreement and get heated and understand that it's just a temper, and it's everybody trying to... Plus, I think the drama that comes from any guild, whether you're roleplay or otherwise, more so in my opinion, for raid guilds and roleplay guilds are pretty much equal when it comes to drama, but...
I'd say raid guilds are worse, because they actually have typically items. I have heard some shit on raid guilds that's like, wow, roleplay guilds aren't so bad as I thought.
So depending on how you look at it, but officers and the guild leader are under a lot of stress, not just in their own lives, but in running the guild. That that if you guys are not on the same page, it just, kind of like having a merry-go-round with one of the screws off. Pretty soon it'll start bucking and people will just start flying off, and that's kind of what happens if everything's not.
And then it ends up on YouTube for everyone to laugh at.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's basically like a job. If
it is,
which is something Jess.
In the time.
Yeah, Jess said
which
that
I have
last
said
episode.
for years.
Yeah.
I have said that for years, and I have everybody. All these people are like, "It's not a job; it's fun." No, it's not. And
it's like a job.
Yeah, you don't get paid, but it is like a job in that you have to show up, you have to be there, you have to be involved, you have to be involved in the sense that you have to be directly involved with the way things are going. If you have a lot of stress in your life. Like when I started school, I tried to be a guild leader and go to school, but my school came first, and pretty soon, my officers were running everything. They were burning out, and I couldn't be there, and it just flew apart. And it wasn't anybody's fault, but that's just what happens. If you
just had to have that higher education and try to better yourself.
I know.
Aren't you
silly
selfish?
Me?
But no, and it actually worked. And there's and one of those things too, like on a lot of the guilds you do, and almost all of them really, when you're the guild leader, you put yourself at the top. But I've actually seen something in Final Fantasy, the Eorzean Garden, run by Laguna. There is she's done. It's a she, but she plays a he. But she's actually it's basically like from Final Fantasy VIII, and they train kids like 18 and under and stuff like that. But while she started the whole thing, she's actually just a student. She actually found other people. One of them, Circe, who's someone I knew from BDO, is one of them, and another gal named Anna. They're actually the headmistresses of it now, but the one that actually is leading the guild is just a typical student, which is a different structure than usually you see in a guild. Usually, when you're the guild leader, you're the guild leader. So
right.
it's pretty rare for somebody to do that. Yeah.
And I think it can work if it's set up and understood.
And it's worked out surprisingly well. I think part of that too is she came up with this idea, and it being a Final Fantasy game and basing a guild off of another Final Fantasy game, it was far more successful than she had any idea. I have never seen a guild from the time that she's like, hey, I have this idea, and I think we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be like this, Eorzean Garden, which has apparently been done in the game before, and then fast forward 3 weeks later, when their link shell has 128 people in it. In 3 weeks time, you've got over 100 people that were interested in your idea, and it was, she did remarkably well, and she found out a lot of people stepped up, again, like Circe, who had stepped up before in BDO. I tried to do what I could, though I was like, I don't know what's going on.
And you might say originally it wasn't a guild.
It was, yeah, you're right. It wasn't actually
not a guild. And then they decided they'd had so many people interested in it. They started a guild with it.
It started out as a link shell idea and turned into a guild, but now it's a guild. And honestly, the majority of it is still in link shell, but it's got that guild core structure where a lot of the instructors and things like that stick. But it's worked remarkably well, and it's a very unique way that I don't often, honestly, until that, I don't know that I've ever seen. I've seen, like with you, Jazz, you've had alts and things like that, but you still had your one character that was always in charge of it all,
Yeah.
And a lot of your alts would have power granted to them where they'd be related to that main character, and you'd have a few that were just like,
nobody.
Yeah, nobodies, but it's very rare that I see somebody that starts up an idea like that, and then from the get-go, they're just like, I'll lead from behind, and we'll kind of work it all out as, it's really, it kind of works like a council thing where she has ultimate authority, but it's worked out surprisingly well. And it was very interesting as somebody that's been role-playing for so long, and a whole bunch of the people in there are so new to it. It's if you had asked me if that would have been possible, I'd be like, nah, I wouldn't even try it. But the fact that they were so new, it proved me wrong, which is always good. If I had seen anybody else probably try that had been role playing for so long, I'd been like, oof, that's probably not going to work out great. But let's see.
Yeah. Well, there was a guild like that in Star Wars Tour. There was a guild like that as well there. And it did great. So I think it just comes down to communication and the people who start it, really. And if they have the time and the patience and are willing to commit to the concept, then it's going to fly. That's the key, though, is are you willing to be there and show up and,
Yeah, and even leading from behind that, she's still there,
Right.
She's still there. She's still there several times out of, most, majority of the week she's going to be logged in.
And that's absolutely the most
that
important part.
that
about
really
running a
is
guild.
that is more than anything. That is, I mean, and I understand there can be burnout, and you actually, as a leader, you can, I'm not saying you can never leave. You got to always be there. You can't go on vacation or be with your, that's not the case. The guilds
No,
will
I
run.
went on.
Yeah.
I had a baby.
Yeah.
Life happens, but
whatever happened to that thing? Does it have a job yet? Does he
not yet.
Does he?
He's
Wow,
6, so.
6, and he still doesn't have a job. Holy crap!
I know. He's a
Wow,
slacker.
you really are just spoiling him. Just a spoiler. But no, it's a guild will last a week to even up to a month without the guild leader around. Especially if people know, like, hey, I've had a health issue. Hey, I'm
it's when it turns into
a
constant thing.
When it's like when you went to college, that was
I was gone
too
all
long.
the time.
Yeah, and you couldn't help it.
I could play on the weekends. That was it, and I just didn't have the time necessary, and that's why I finally shuttered the guild. I was just like, I'm sorry, guys, I can't do this.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where if you don't log in as a leader and are there to, you're the symbol of that,
Yeah.
So if you're not there, people they're just like, well, I guess this is it's just not as much fun. I've done the ungilded thing. I've been in dying or underutilized guilds, and it really does change your enjoyment of the game when you're in between being in an active guild and an inactive or even guildless, which although honestly I would almost say being guildless is probably less damaging to your experience than being in an inactive guild, because at least
I agree 100%. Yeah.
You know that nobody's going to be there because you're by yourself. You might have your friends list and that, you pop up and you talk to them even, but you don't have that mindset of, oh, well, I guess, just sit here and kick some rocks in the parking lot because there's nobody can even bother to come play with me. It's like when you let your little boy and you go over and, can Jared come out and play? Oh, sorry, he's grounded. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Not that I had that happen. Jared was my best friend growing up. Brother, wherever you are, wherever you landed. But yeah.
One thing to mention too is use your resources. I mean, because if you're going to start a guild, I know Discord has been wonderful.
Oh, yes.
I don't know where this has been all my life.
Yeah.
I love Discord. And then Engine has good, websites for guilds. But make sure you have your, if you're going to lead a guild, make sure you have all your ducks in a row,
Yeah.
Get your website. I know Jazz is really good about getting up the websites.
And she loves it so much. She just loves it.
But she's good at it. She's always good at,
If
she starts a guild, that website's
that guild has a fucking website, and it has it now.
I don't launch a guild until the site is ready.
Yeah. And see, that makes a good leader because you have somewhere to go to write stories. You have somewhere to go, people to talk
and
to
I
each
think
other.
that I just lost my train of thought. I hate it when that happens.
Well, at least you're sick. You kind of got an excuse.
Yeah, my head's full of snot. It's not working very well.
You get a pass today.
In other news, lovely images coming up next.
Yes.
But no, that's part of the burden of being a guild leader. You got to set that stuff up. You got to, especially, I don't know about other guilds, but for a roleplay guild, you really do need like a place where, because part of being many role players, and then not all of them, but a lot of them do like to write. I mean, that's what you're doing when you're role playing. You're a writer, whether you would call
you're writing a story, whatever you call it. You're still writing a story.
Right.
And you're role player.
And I wouldn't go around being like, well, of course I'm a writer. I role play. I mean, you're not. You're still not as douchey as
Let's
those
not
people
be that person.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not going to a Starbucks so that everybody can see you writing your novel that will never go anywhere because you're not going to finish it unless you're writing at a Starbucks. You're not being those douchebags. I'm just waiting to alienate that part of anybody that's listening.
Yeah,
okay, now that they're gone. Yeah, those people are assholes. Besides that, the coffee's terrible.
I remember what I was going to say. We'll stop this tangent before you set
Go
everything
ahead.
on fire. Okay, what I was going to say was not only is it a leader need to have, time to invest and understand that in many ways it's a job. You also have to have at least one or two people that you can rely on within the guild to help you as an officer. Even if they're not ICELY an officer, that they're OOCELY someone that you can depend on. And I've always had that, whether it was you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've had a lot of good people around you.
Yeah, I've always managed to find people that can help me be an officer and who can be there when I'm not. And, if I can send them a text message and say, hey, log in and do this because I can't get in today.
Mm-hmm.
That is always very important, that you have active involved officers. And that's where I have failed on so many times, is not that there was anything wrong with my officers, but that
you didn't utilize them. Yeah, you were.
I didn't utilize them at all because I wanted to do everything myself. Yes, I wanted to do it all myself, and and they were just figureheads. And then when I did learn how to do that, I was hesitant to have anyone step down who no longer could play, and shot myself in the foot because I had no officers that were on the time. And that wasn't their fault. Life does that. But you have to be willing to say, okay, I love you. I'll always love you. You're my best friend, but you can't be officer anymore because you're never on. So that's important to be able to do that. I had my husband. I had to finally say, dude, you can't be commander anymore. I had to fire him. I love you. You can be our OOC raid leader, and when you log in, you can be that raid leader, and that's great. You are never here. When you are here, you're AFK. Can't do this anymore. And it was a hard conversation. I felt horrible, but he was like, why didn't you tell me this months ago?
And that's the thing, is a lot of times is it, and I have that later on for us, but one of those things is people just naturally, role-playing, I love conflict, I absolutely love it. Somebody was calling my character that Kenny thing, which drives me personally crazy, but that's for other reasons we'll get into. But even though it's against the rules, he threatened if she did it, he would introduce a long blade into her short rib if she did that again. And that's just because, for me, a name of a character is as important. It's one of the most important things. If you start letting people call your character goofy, silly names, it affects the character, too. And it affects the image of the character.
That's also true in real life, though.
It is. Yeah.
My name has a lot of nicknames that it could be my real name, which I don't go by. I go by Jazz. But when people find out what my legal name is, they automatically shorten it and start calling me by the little girl version of that short name. And nothing. Oh my God.
That's why
so hard.
I hate it.
Now you just rise up and stab someone when they do that. Yeah. It's like, that's not my name. It has never been my name. Stop calling me that.
And that's why I would do that. But so in-character conflict is fine, but out-of-character conflict, nobody wants to do that. I mean, we're in here for a game, but honestly, sometimes, and it's not even necessarily like conflict, like, threatening to stab somebody in their ribs, that's pretty good conflict. It's very obvious, but being like, hey, listen, I'm sorry, we're friends, but you're not logged in enough. If your life, frees up, let me know. The spot will be waiting for you when you get back, but until then, I gotta bounce you, A lot of times people really are understanding, and if they don't, then they're being selfish dickheads, and they really need to go even more so than before.
Because it's absolutely important that you have active officers. It's just as important as having an active guild leader, and that's where I have fallen down over and over and over again, is because I don't want to cut people out because their house burned down and they can't be in game for 6 months.
That's pretty extreme. Has that happened?
Yes.
Wow,
actually,
really?
But, and things like that happen.
Wow, you're just a terrible person. I can't believe they're having the worst thing in their life and you did.
Or
Holy
cow, a friend of ours.
The worst.
Her dad died, He's going to be gone for 6 months, and 6 months easily, because she's dealing with all of that.
Yeah, and
I would feel terrible going to her and saying, look, you are emotionally distraught and you can't do this anymore. Now, she's not has that problem because she's like, love you guys, but real life got to go.
Yeah.
Because she knows that that's important. But I think
not everybody would.
Not everybody will do that because the game is an escape.
Yeah.
And a game is your safety place.
Mhm.
And so when you are under stress, you want to log into the game when you can. And if you no longer can be an officer, it can be a very hurtful moment. And I know that.
Yeah.
So it's really hard, but it is absolutely necessary for the health of the guild that you be able to
And it's just one of those things. When you start getting, I mean, like, you know, like I had that happen. My dad passed away, but I continued on because, I mean, it was tragic, and I grieved in my own way with my family, but I still logged in, and I didn't really, I wasn't angry about it, you know, which can happen. It's understandable, but it's one of those things where when you know you as either a guild leader or something, like when you start to get the, I don't know, maybe that's when you're like, it's already probably past the time of, you should do exactly that, because if you're just now realizing it, it's probably been a good 2 or 3 steps back where that was actually already the case. You know, when I've been in a guild where the leaders were just completely absent. You know, they would log in and they'd be AFK the whole time, and everyone would promise that we were going to increase the guild numbers and recruit. It never happened, and you know, they were friends, and I love them dearly, but after a while I was like, this is ruining my experience, and I'm not having as much fun in the game as I could be, and I had to let them, but it was probably already, you know, a good 2 or 3 weeks past where I probably should have done that.
Yeah.
And, you know,
but as adults, we struggle, I think, with that, because like you said, conflict is fun in role play and, you know, theater, but it's not fun when it's your friends and people that, even though most of us have never met or rarely meet, and we're all virtual, but we're all friends. And we don't want to damage that support network because one person can't be the officer anymore.
Yeah. Because unlike talking politics on Facebook, you know there's an actual living person behind there with thoughts and feelings. Whereas on Facebook, they're probably not thinking.
Yeah. Ever.
Because it's Facebook and it's where thought goes to die. Unless, of course, you go to facebook.com/MMORadio, RPMMORadio, in which case you should join us there.
Nice plug.
Right? All right, so we're going to go... probably, let's see, is there anything else we want to say on leadership before we go into
I think that's
member expectations? Actually, there is one other thing for leaders. No, that's actually more for members, about them not expecting, because we do have yet another advertisement, if you can believe that, here. And what are you laughing at?
I think we're becoming big time.
Right? I mean, all these fantasy things. This one's actually from Dragon Scales Capsules for Orcs. So, you know, if we...
By all means.
We all good?
Yeah.
All right. So, do you ever felt like you just... Or, you know what? Let's try that again without the suck this time. That's right. This is live. Just enjoy it. Do you ever just feel spent? Do you feel as though life has just set you down in a tavern and just keeps right on trucking without you? Does that special orc lady expect something hard, rough, and able to make it through the night? Let's just ask our friend Trog.
Hey, Trog. When you get home from bashing and pillaging, are you worn out?
Yes, me just want nap.
Hey, Trog. Do you feel like you're making that special lady go without?
Yes. I see her looking at Drat with wistful gleaming eye when he beheading prisoners.
Hey, Trog. How does that make you feel? I bet you're enraged, aren't you?
No, not enraged. Trog just sad. Trog just tired and want beer. Poor Trog. Well, we have a wonderful special just for you, Trog, and our listeners. Today only we are offering Dragon Scale Capsules. Let's all forget the political correctness. Dragons are freaking huge, if you know what I mean. I mean, really. Get a dragon around and whoa! Watch out. The city will burn and women will swoon at their weighing of destruction. So, we have sent our best lower-ranking knights out to collect some Dragon's special essence. Wink, wink. bottled it up, and we are now offering it to those lucky enough to hear this offer. Trog, what do you have to say? Dragon scale essence is best. Now I bash pillage and come home to Tarv, and I make Tarv very happy orc. Also Drat dead now of jealousy.
Yes, Trog.
For the first 50 callers, we'll throw in a nice set of well-done flash-fried top steaks. Never mind the fact that they're slightly human-shaped. So call now for dinner and a night with your special someone, and you won't forget soon. Carrier pigeons are standing by. Dragon scale capsules are made from the dragon extract for orcs only and should be taken responsibly. Some side effects are the rotting of your nose, ears, lips, and lower appendages, vomiting, which may contain blood and other bodily fluids, uncontrollable diarrhea, the urge to ram your head into a wall, burning butthole, itching armpits, and burning inner thighs. In rare cases, some have leapt off high cliffs, roaring at the top of their lungs into their untimely death. Consult your local shaman if gigantism of the lower extremities ensues. Dragon scale capsules, because death or sex isn't really even a choice. Well, that's interesting, and also slightly gross. Why is it all of our stuff is also slightly gross? What's that?
I don't know.
I should have taken it off mute yet.
You okay, Jess?
I just hope he's really one happy orc.
Yeah. What? It's I know you're not laughing at the sponsor.
Okay.
They're helping pay for our show. That's just.
I'm okay. Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, I know I've brought to tears too by It's just such a beautiful story. It's almost as good as Beauty and the Beast, really.
Yeah.
It is a tale as old as time.
I can't believe you went there.
What?
I can't believe it either, but I should.
Yeah, at this point,
Oh,
is anything I say
gosh.
really that surprising or shocking?
No, it shouldn't be.
So, on with our show. What should you expect from a roleplay guild as a member? Well, you should probably be there and be in a guild.
Yeah.
Stupid.
You should be prepared to log in regularly. One of the biggest problems that I have as a guild leader is with people who want to log in, have roleplay created for them, run for them, given to them on a platter so that they can enjoy it, and then they get to log out and they don't have to follow up with anything that happens. And that is a quick way to burn out, and I know a lot of roleplayer guild leaders that do this, and as a member you need to remember that your role play is yours.
Yep, and you're as much responsible for your content and your role play as anybody else. It's not the guild leader's there to give you the structure and stuff like that, and yes, they will, because they're role players themselves, they will have some stories and they will try to usually do like an overarching thing. But as we've had, and I'm gonna use you as an example because it's nothing really that the leader or even the members necessarily probably even, it's not the thing that happens on purpose. But if the role play only happens when the leader's on, that's gotta be something that's changed, because nothing will happen, and that's a good surefire way, like in Jazz's case where she had to go, that the roleplay basically died. When she wasn't there, roleplay didn't happen. It was something that drove me crazy, because it'd be like, hey, everybody want to do anything? Crickets. And it wasn't...
But I log on and everyone's like, hey, let's go do this.
Right, but you can't tie... Not everybody can tie their character story so directly with the guild leader. And I'm not saying... And a lot of people, like, they think guild leaders are busy 24/7, which is not actually true. They really, when it comes to roleplay, everyone thinks that, so a lot of times they get left out of stuff. So there is that as well. But they're there to give you the structure. But when they're not around, that's no reason for the roleplay to stop. That's still up to you to interact with the other members or even people outside the guild. Have your own conflicts, have your own stories, keep evolving, regardless of if the leader's around, every single day. They'll be around plenty enough, but you can't come in and expect them to have something for you personally or as a group to role play every day. That's an unrealistic expectation, and it is the quickest way to burn your guild straight to the ground because your leader's going to get burnt out and get frustrated. And it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it in lots of guilds.
Oh, yeah. And, it's important not only because it keeps the guild healthy, but it also will keep your roleplay healthy because if you are letting your roleplay become dependent on any one person, if something happens to that person, where do you go? What do you do? Then you're just kind of floating and you've lost your story. And that can be really upsetting.
We've seen it a lot of people that have, if any of them listen, I love you to death. I'm just using you as an example. It's nothing you've done wrong, but it's something everybody probably has done at one point or another, especially as your character gets so intertwined with somebody that when they leave, I've seen really good characters just get tossed to the wayside because they were so interconnected with another character that when they leave, it's it, or if something happens, they quit the game or something like that unexpectedly, you're just left there, holding the torch, not having anything to burn. There's no villages left to plunder. Yeah. And it's the same way with a guild leader. If you can't tie that tightly to a guild leader. You've got to be able to, interact with other people independently, which, is always more fun. The big group role play stuff is good, and it's good in events. It's good for events, which we're actually going to do how to do role play events in a future show. But the one-on-one or very small group, 3 or 4 people role play where you can just bounce back and forth without the chat text, being overwhelming, are some of the more personable, yeah, and meaningful. There's the word I was looking for. Meaningful, more meaningful roleplay you have. Yeah,
it goes both ways because as a guild leader, I had to learn that it was okay for me to have my own stories that didn't involve the rest of the guild. And people would get mad because they're like, "Why aren't you including us?" I'm like, I am allowed to have my own private stories that don't involve everyone, and you need to get used to that too. And I think that you need to encourage your guild leader to just have a leveling day or go play an alt today. You need a break. My officers would do that. They're like, you're going to log on to a character that no one but us knows, and you're going to go F off for a little while because you need to, or we're going to kill you. Thanks.
Yeah, because you're getting really annoying.
Yeah, and it's important. My officers would
You're really bitchy. I don't want to say anything, but holy crap. No.
Having officers who say, you've been really tense lately, you don't seem like you're enjoying the game. Maybe you should go play an alt for a couple of days. We'll be fine. Go on. Yeah. Go do something else for a little while.
And that's the thing. Important. It's like that really, as much as I like Tavern RP and stuff like that, your character doesn't evolve in big group RP or big guild roleplay unless it's something. And I mean, it'd have to be like a groundbreak. We had a few of them in Silver Circle where our guild house would be attacked and burned down.
Oh yes.
Things like that. Things like that would actually change almost everybody in the guild's character.
But they were exhausting, and we didn't do them very often.
Right.
We did the big guild thing when we bought the new.
Yeah, it'd be like less. Those things were like less than once a year. Where we would do something
less than every 2
scale.
years, roughly. Yeah.
But that's the thing. So in between that, you've got to have interpersonal character stuff with your guild and your guild members separate from your leadership. And the leaders are good, and they're there for the structure. It's kind of, think of the guild like the government. They're there to give you the bridges, roadways, and fire department, but you've got to get your own job, unless you work for the post office like some people.
For people who are in a guild and I've seen this with other guild people and other guilds, and have come to me saying, I'm upset about this. Do I have a right to be upset about this? Where their guild leader says that they can't do RP that doesn't involve the guild.
That's just a bad guild. I'll be honest.
Anytime that somebody comes and says to you, you can't go off on an arc of your own because the guild wouldn't allow that. I'm sorry. No.
And it's one thing where a guild will blacklist certain player. Like the guild as a whole will no longer interact with, say, this god modder over here. If you do that and you get yourself, the cliche kidnapped, I'll just use that. you're going to need to rescue yourself because we just can't interact
You
with
just
them.
hit my pet peeve. Good job.
Yeah. We're going to, that's another episode sometime. Things that, RP cliches.
Things that make RP guild leaders go, ah! That would be one right there.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to see another kidnap RP for the rest of my life. Ever.
A lot of children.
I want to go out. It's got to
a lot of damsels in distress. But
Stop it.
that's it's just one of those things, That's just how that happens. And the guild, when you join a good RP guild, they'll let you know from the outset what you're expected to do, what they want from you as a player, what they want from you as a character. Some kind of like raid guilds. Like if you join a raid guild for an MMO, they're gonna raid Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and if you're not there, you're probably not gonna be in that guild when you log in next time.
Exactly,
and you know that going in.
Stuck to that.
Now,
I've
given
always done that.
Roleplay things, we're not set quite that stringently.
No. But I do
do
remind people of that when they get mad, because I'm like, we have mandatory guild events that you are expected to attend.
If you're
or there will
logged
be
in.
icy consequences. Yeah, if you're logged in. I don't expect you to skip work to come to it.
Like, hey, I know it's your daughter's second birthday, and she's gonna adorably eat that cake and shove it into her face. But by God, if you aren't at our fucking meeting, I am gonna end you.
Yeah.
So help me God, your daughter will cry when she
upfront.
sees what I've done to you.
Yeah. If you're on the guild character, I expect you to attend X event. And we
And
tell people that up front.
Yeah, and it's not, and I know we struggled with that at the beginning, and it's not too much to expect that, and if
one day a week you show up
or
and do
you,
something.
and I don't even think you were doing it one day. After a while, it was once every 2 weeks. I've personally, sometime when it was once a week, they could get a little dull because not everything was happening.
Well, yeah.
But once every two, but even still, if you join the guild, it's one of those things. If you're in it, it's like one of the guilds in Star Wars that I was looking around. I wanted to join. I was a Sith, and I wanted to join a Sith guild. But this guild would have required me, who had a character I'd already been playing for like a year and had all this backstory. I would have had to have joining their guild start out as like an apprentice, and he's not an apprentice. He's already master level, and so guess what I did? I didn't join that guild. And as much fun as they sounded, as much as I'm sure they were probably a fantastic guild, I knew I personally, I wanted them to change around me, and you can't expect that. If a guild is set up a certain way, you'll find another guild that's set up the way you would want to do, would want to do it.
Yeah. And you don't want to go changing your character.
Right.
I mean,
Not
for a guild, because we saw that just recently. One of the RPers, he had changed his character and wasn't happy playing him, so he just up and left. He's like, I gotta redo my whole character.
Yeah.
And you've got to make it fun for you.
Yeah. It's very important that you remain, if you set up a character and you want to join some guild really bad, roll a different character. Don't change your character and erase
especially
3 years of RP just to fit in.
Especially if it's, if the game just started and you've done like 3 RP sessions with random people and you're like, oh man, this guild over here is, smugglers, but my guy was going to be a paladin. I guess I'm a smuggler now. That's, you know what you need to do, but and I've seen it. There's a few new role players in Final Fantasy, and they're really good role players, but they're like all new role players, and he's actually eventually going to send us an email, which will be awesome. Andy Mon, shout out to you. But this actually just naturally leads into what he was saying, was as he's a new role player, and when you're new like that, you don't necessarily know just to stick with things. If you come up with a certain concept and you really like it, you don't need to change that for others around you to keep them happy. And it's the same thing with the guild. You don't need to change your character for the guild if you don't want to. Maybe it will make some sparks and maybe it will butt some heads, but that's okay as long as it's in roleplay. Like the character I have in your ESO guild, he, your rule right off the bat, you don't threaten or stab other people. That was the first thing he did when somebody really ticked him off.
Yeah.
He's not, he doesn't, he's an assassin. He doesn't know necessarily always the diplomatic route is always the best route, and it got the point across.
And I have to say, don't do what Ashen says, because Ashen can back it up. And sometimes you might do something like that and you're like, I don't know where to go from there.
If you do that, you've
No.
got to be willing to commit to it. And
Right.
Yeah.
more importantly, and this is with all role play, Jazz, take the consequences.
Yep.
Yes.
That is probably the biggest problem with long-term role play is people who would do like in our guild in EQ, it was a mercenary guild full of monsters, non-mortal and mortal monster men and women who were pretty much bad people. And if you come in there and you spit at them, and I'm 100% for that if that's what you think your character would do. We had a gentleman apply, and he started mouthing off to the guild leader, called her the B word, and
Biscuit?
immediately
That's
had two people leaning over him, and he got Oasili upset, picking on me. No, this is what happens when you walk into a group of monsters and start spitting on the lady that runs the place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't back it, and like we had another guy do the same thing, and he was laughing Oasili the whole time.
Which is
because
awesome.
he was, yes,
He
because
does.
he was pleased. He was like, wow, you guys were serious. He's like, my character will get eaten here. I'll roll a different one. And he did. And he ended up rolling a different character and coming and playing with us. But his initial reaction, he brought in this smartass and got right in my character's face, and she bit his head off.
Right.
Because that's
And
the way
what did
she
he
was.
do? He didn't
he
expect your
laughed.
guild to change for you.
No.
He went and got another character that would
Yep. He said,
be more
this
to the
isn't
guild.
going to work. He's going to be dinner by the end of the night. So tell you what, we'll have him leave and just safely go somewhere else, and I'll roll another character that'll fit in better
Exactly.
here.
And that's
And that was fine.
that's
I
perfectly
wasn't
okay.
upset.
Yeah,
You know,
it's just when
he
you
was
cannot
pleased
get-
when he figured it out.
when
Yeah.
you know, with your guild, you can't, if you're gonna enter, and if, again, I love conflict and roleplay, but if you're gonna do that, especially with your guild, because you're with these people all the time, you gotta accept the consequences. If he gets slapped on the wrist, or I mean, if I go so far as to, if I know it would probably happen, but they boot him out or penalize him, or in this case, since it's money based, they'd probably fine him for it or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's fine, but you've got to stay true to your character. And
Yeah.
sometimes there are nasty consequences even within your guild. Now, there are certain cases where, you have to back down at some point. I mean, that's one of those things with roleplay that drives me crazy, is because people do know that you literally can't do anything. It is all just,
Right.
tippity, typity, typity. But
Yeah.
you've got to have a mindset of, okay, would I really, I meet Charles Manson in a dark alley and he's got a katana. Am I really going to sit there and make fun of his stupid swastika on his forehead? No.
No.
I'm going to run the fuck away. Even
Yeah,
if
that's
I'm a
always
big
hard to
badass,
deal with.
if I'm The Rock, I might be like, wow, that's Charles Manson. Man, you are fucked up in the head. But I'm The Rock. I could get away with that. I'm not
Yeah.
me, chubby, flabby little, postal worker meeting Charles Manson in a dark alley. Although at this point, I think I could take him. He's been in prison a long time, and he's not one of those bodybuilder prison guys, let's just say.
No.
So I think I could take him. Bring
He's
it on.
like,
Chuck.
what, 80?
Bring it
I
on,
think you got a
Chuck.
pretty good
Yeah,
shot.
I will
Yeah.
beat the shit out of that geriatric. I could say that and get away with it with him. No one's going to be like, hey, that's not nice.
Well, it's... Yeah,
But,
so
that's one of those
I think-
things with your characters. You've got to
Yeah.
take the consequences and
But
be
it's not any
realistic.
fun.
Yeah.
It's not any fun for the conflict RP guilds either if you
It's
poke
constantly,
at them,
every day.
they roar at you, and then you're like, I'm not afraid of you. Because they can't really do anything to
Right.
your character that you don't allow. So you just get in their face. And it's such a cowardly way to role play that way. I've never understood that. I mean,
And
there are
it's-
some people who are not afraid of anyone, and I get that. And I'm not saying that that's not realistic to your character. But you can't sit there and
Because
expect
you
people to
also
want
can't
to...
be killed off.
Right. You know you
Yeah.
can't be killed, so you just get in their face because you know there's no real consequences. Those people are not going to want to role play with you anymore if you
Mm-mm.
continue
Kind
to
of
have
a-
that kind of behavior.
It's kind of a sort of god modding, because
It is.
It is actually God
Yeah.
modding.
It is God modding because you know there's nothing they can really do.
Yeah,
And,
and that's
so,
no fun.
yeah, and it's not only you may be having fun, but no one else is.
Mm-mm.
And
it's
they're
frustrating.
not
It
going to
actually
want to role
gets
play with you anymore.
and it gets to the point
Yeah.
after a while, it's frustrating out of character, because you're like, okay, I've done everything in character to try to calm this guy down, and he just keeps pushing back, and I'm out of options. So, go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
And
I've always
that's
I've
where
run
everybody
into that.
gets.
And what I usually send it at some point, particularly those two instances I was telling you about, I sent a tell to each one when it was starting to get to the point where they were probably going to get eaten if they didn't stop. And as you know, we had prisons. We could put them in a cell. It wasn't, ideally was an option. And I sent a tell to each one. And it's like, okay, you have reached the point where you are going to have a consequence. Now, if you're not okay with that, you probably should stop.
Yeah, back
if you
down,
are
or,
okay with
or
that,
go
let's
silent.
discuss let's discuss what an option is, because you've reached the point of no return. The guy that was being an ass for real, Owasili, just got up and walked out. He said, "Screw you," and he walked out because he was pissed. Mm-hmm. The second guy gave me 4 LOLs in a row, and he was like, "Really? Honestly, you're going to put me in jail? That's awesome."
Yeah.
And, he continued to be an ass. He said, you could even kill my character. I wouldn't care. And I'm like, well, we won't do that. But, so he ended up in a cell overnight. So,
yeah.
And then we let him go. When they're willing to accept it.
Yeah. And, he was like, "Are you going to kill him?" I'm like, "No, but he'll be held for a couple of days scared, and then we'll let him go. And then you can roll a new character and go actually apply for real." And he was fine with that. But I did have an OOC conversation with him because it had reached the point where I didn't have any options anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when communication is so important. But those are the 2 ways people deal with that. And it's not fun for me to have to stop RP
and deal with that. Yeah.
And deal with somebody, Owasili, telling me, "Screw you," because my character shouldn't be able to be killed, and I don't care if you're a monster, kind of a thing. This wasn't any fun.
Because it is god modding, yeah. So.
And that's when you know that guild is not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know we're at about the hour mark, but we still got a little ways to go if everyone's cool with that.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll hit real quick in. That's what it takes to join, but when is it time to go? And this one we can go over pretty quickly. It's pretty easy when there's fewer and fewer people logging in, when your guild leaders and the officers are absent, and more important, which is the theme of everything I at least personally do for roleplay, when it stops being fun. When you're logging in and you're seeing all these other active RP guilds around you, and yours has you and like one AFK dude, and it's like that every day for weeks on end.
It's time.
Just do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
It's your money. I know it's what I hate when people say, "It's my $15. You don't get to tell me how to play." But in this case, it is your $15, and you should be having the most fun you can get out of that money.
And like Alanu, which we have now, so one of the things that's in there is like, if it's not fun anymore, stop logging in. Stop. Just stop. I'm not going to be mad at you. If you're no longer having fun and you don't want to do this anymore, stop doing it. It's that simple.
Or just in
Take a break,
in some of them, like ESO, it's free to play. So you could just stop paying the money. And if you want to log in 3 weeks from now, it's fine. It's not like Final Fantasy 14 and some of the others where you have to pay to log in, which there's fewer and fewer of these days. Even EQ2 and EverQuest. I think World of Warcraft's another one you have to pay. Yeah, it's still sub. There's very few of those anymore. Just stop. Just chill out. It's okay. But don't stick around in that guild if you're not having fun. If
you're truly unhappy and you're no longer having fun, then you need to stop playing. It's that simple.
And when you do that, and this is just if there's even people still around, give them a heads up. We've had guilds where we're friends and like they leave in the dead of night. It's like, okay, well, that was a shitty thing to do. You could have just said like, "Hey, I'm gonna move on. I'm doing other stuff."
Send them a letter, if nothing else. Just,
if they're not logged in, send them a letter in-game. Send them a message on the forums that they probably have. But don't, it's such a douche move. Just don't do that. Just man up, woman up, whatever. And
just
I know we don't like
conflict,
but...
Even if you don't like them, just say, "Hey, I'm gone. This is the place for me."
Yeah, it's just a matter of things, and it happens. I've done it recently, and they're friends of mine, and I love them to death, but I wasn't having fun with the guild, so that's, I moved on from there, and, so did they. And we're still friends, so it's good. Just do what you got to do. The only way I wouldn't do that, and I'm going to go over a quick story, because this was probably the worst case of leadership I've ever seen in an MMO, is if the leader is abusive and just flat out wrong. I mean, and it does happen. There are some that have such a big head on their shoulders, and I'm sure this will probably come up over a case of shows here and there for me, because it was one of the worst guild experiences I ever had in an MMO. And it was at the very beginning of EverQuest 2, and it was a guild called the Shadow Slayers. And anybody out there called Shadow Slayers, it's a pretty common name at this point. I mean, it's Shadow, and you're slaying it. It's not the most original name. But the guild leader on that, he was so stuck on himself. He was like, "Oh, I've got this artist that's done this character of my character, and he only gave me permission to use this." And it's like, he was just a douche. I was also young at the time, so I kind of went along with it. I ignored a lot of the things, but very full of himself. He was co-leading it with a real-life friend of his, but when I started, he ERP'd, which, you ERP, cool, whatever,
Whole nother episode.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem with him came...
Possibly two.
The problem with him came when one of the gals in the guild I've gotten to know and was friends with, and we talk and tells and stuff like that, sent me one where she was completely creeped out because she was doing that with him, which is fine. I didn't care. Didn't bother me any until she told me, he said, "Well, when we do this, instead of my character's name, can you call me Kevin?" Yeah, and if you're listening, Kevin, go fuck yourself. I don't care if I'm using your real name. You're a dirtbag. But the reason he did that, which that goes from ERP to cheating on your wife, which I knew he was also doing because his best friend was in the guild, and he didn't want him to find out because the guy had a wife and kids. This guy was a certifiable scumbag.
And you can tell.
That was when I left. Yeah, it left an impression on me 15 years later. Yeah, 14 years later, however long he was. And that was. I mean, I remember that very, very well. That I don't remember a lot of things from MMOs because after a while, kind of like work, it all bleeds together. It's all the same thing. That one left a lasting impression of one of the worst people I've ever had the dishonor and unfortunate ability to RP with, and the fact that I even knew him at all is just horrible. I just hate the experience of that. I spent 6 months with a person like that before I found out who they really were.
Yeah, and it's important that when that is happening, that you remember that you are a person and no one should be treating you that way, and you need to just get out.
And that's exactly what I told her. I said, just tell him to, fuck off, / ignore him. I will be right behind you because I'm going to tell this guy off and I'm out of here because that's bullshit. And they went on for another, I think they lasted a whole year before they ended up folding, likely, because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things. You just, if you're that's an extreme case. I mean, I've been role playing now since before then, and that is the only case where I have.
But you also stopped taking it, so
yes.
I have had to give people advice on that as well because they're like, this person's doing this, this, and this. No one has the right to do anything to you without your permission. Nobody has the right to insist that you don't have a say in the matter when it comes to your character or when it comes to you personally. Anytime that somebody crosses into that or makes you feel grody or gross or, dirty, you need to just walk away. It's just so important.
And it is literally only a game. In that case, it's only a game. It's not worth that kind of frustration for you. And just bail. Just bail, put them on ignore, and get out of there. It's not worth it. It's, she was a real, I said it because I can't even remember. I can't remember anyone's names. I'm terrible with names, but she was a super sweet girl. Didn't deserve to be treated like that. Didn't deserve to be used like that against some guy's family, because that made her from having fun role playing into something far more real and far not something she would have ever done in real life. She thought he had permission from his family, then she found out he didn't. Like with you, Jez, you and your husband, you guys are aware of what you do. It doesn't bother you at all. Nope. If you guys had promised not to ever do stuff like that and you were still doing it, then you're being a complete dirtbag.
Yep.
So. And I suggest on the RPing thing, when you meet somebody new, maybe throw that out there in a tell. Say, hey, I love RPing, but there is no ERP. I actually had somebody in Final Fantasy, they approached me to talk to me and they said, do you ERP? And I said, no, I don't. And they were like, okay, thanks for letting me know.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and that's just one of those things of always
Yeah.
being upfront right off the bat. But
Yeah, I tell people right up front I don't ERP with strangers. I just don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So if I don't know you personally, it's never going to happen. And even when it does, you know, I'm married. I have a husband. If I want to have sex, all I have to do is, you know, go knock on the door.
right,
Hey, honey.
hire the
So,
Asian hooker
it's-
down the street, right?
Right. It doesn't matter.
Felipe,
It's just, but it's not that important to me. So it's not something that I do on a regular basis because to me, and only to me, ERP gets very quickly boring. You know, oh baby, harder, deeper, faster. Can only be done so many times in so
And
many
that's why
ways.
you need dragon scale capsules for
Very good. Yes.
Came back to haunt us, didn't it?
That's
Yes,
right.
it did.
All right, well,
Yes, it did.
I think that will probably do it for our episode. So I want to thank.
Wait, I want
go
to
ahead.
throw out this
Go ahead.
terminology. I know Jazz used a couple of things earlier that I thought maybe, you know, some people might be like, what is that? I
Oh,
know
yeah.
I was, when I first started, I was like, what do they mean? What do they mean? What are they talking about? But OOC, I heard you say that earlier, Jess.
Yes.
Quite a few.
It
times.
is, yeah, it's a term for talking out of character. It should be never taken in character. This is just stuff like talking like we are right now.
Mhm.
It should never be. And then IC, which is in character. And those
Right.
things are always the role-playing end. You know, you should never, you should really not mix either, you know, unless
Yes, they
you
need to
know
be
for
very
sure.
clearly separated.
Yeah. But I know, like I said, when I first started, I wish somebody would have told me because I had no clue.
Yeah, that might be something we do. We'll have to do that next episode. Go over
Some
Yeah.
the terminology and go maybe a little bit more into the weeds on a lot of that stuff because we
Yeah.
kind of did in that first episode, but it also was an audio nightmare. So
Yeah.
it might
True.
not hurt to go over some of that
And
stuff again.
there's other things that people have used that I'm like, I don't know what they're saying to me.
Right. But yeah, that's something we'll definitely. I think we'll probably hit that next episode then, because
Yeah,
some of those terminology, things like that, and just the mixing and the metagaming and the god modding. That's probably
yeah.
Just throw a couple in here and there,
Yeah.
just so we.
Yeah.
'cause I know it helped me whenever having you here because you knew what they were and I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
but not everybody has someone sitting 5 feet behind them.
Yeah.
yeah, saying it's in character, honey. That means they're not talking in character. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Parentheses, being out of character, OOC,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So, all right. Well,
Okay.
anything else before we start signing
Nope.
off?
I got nothing.
Okay.
I'm all done.
Well, I want to thank you, Sib and Jazz, for being here,
Bye.
as always.
Thank you.
And you can contact us if you have any questions, comments, concerns through RPMMORadio at gmail.com. Visit us at facebook.com/RPMMORadio. And, of course, if you're here at Twitch, it's twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. You can see us at any one of those places. And, I appreciate everybody tuning in today. So go ahead and tune in next time when we talk about rats, and how the MMO world would not be plague-ridden or with the number of rat starter quests. Wow, I get through that entire thing with the thing bleeding from your dick, and I can't say this last part. So anyway, appreciate you tuning in. Join us next time on RPMMO Radio, and good night, everybody.